first thing we're going to do is I've got my 8x8 piece of lightweight chipboard. I've got my pattern paper that's going to go on top of it. It is also 8x8. So I am just going to glue this down. And there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this one's going to be a little bit different. So the Western one, it's got like little stars that are kind of scattered here and there. This one, and I'm just turning this over so I can kind of figure out placement. This one, I want the lights to kind of come around, like show around the outside edge of my poinsettias. So I am going to just kind of tuck things in approximately where ultimately it's going to end up. Keeping in mind it's probably not going to be exactly like this, but it's going to be close. And I'm just going to loosely kind of trace around approximately where the stuff's going to go. Okay? So I'm going to slide those off. So you can see on here, I've kind of got this about where I want it to go. All right. So, open up my lights. And find where they open at. There it is. For some reason there are like 2 bags in here. I'm not sure why. So there are 20 little lights on this string. Try to find my end here. See where it's wrapped around right there, but there's gotta be something else here. There's the end. It's hiding. Okay. So I have my fairy lights. So I'm going to double check. There should be 20 lights on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so there are 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and I'm going to start marking where I want my lights to go. Okay, and then I'm going to take my big crocodile, because I am going to end up going in a little bit further on some of these than, actually before I do that, no, we're good. Probably a little bit further than I might be able to go with the normal crocodile. And I am using the smaller of the 2 hole punches on this. And I'm not using the regular crocodile, so hopefully I can, do this without giving myself a blood blister, because every single time I use the normal one, somehow I end up pinching my hand. Don't ask me why, don't ask me how. Apparently I'm just an idiot with that. Okay, so this one, because it's just going to be underneath our central decoration, On this one, we are not going to put vellum on the back of this to kind of mute the lights. Because it's not really going to need it. It's much easier to hang on to. Okay, oops. All right, so we've got our spots. So what I'm going to do is figure out where I put my tape. I started to put away earlier. Okay, so we want it to end down here, okay? So I'm going to actually, I'm going to start out by turning that over and pulling out. There's like a little plastic tab you have to pull out of these. Okay, so I want it to end down here. So I'm actually going to put this out to this outside corner here. Not quite to the outside corner, close to the outside corner. And I'm going to just tape this down. So that way that's about where it needs to ultimately end up. Okay, and then I'm literally just going to come around because this is the back. This is all going to be covered up. You're never going to see all of this ugly Scotch tape. And we are just going to tape those lights down over the various holes. And you can bend this stuff, so don't worry if they're kind of close together or if it feels like it doesn't quite want to go where it needs to go. You can bend these lights. Okay. And as I do this, I'm trying to kind of aim the light down. So you'll see there's kind of like a bubble to these. I'm trying to aim that part. I can't pull the tape off the roll either. I'm trying to kind of aim that part down at the hole. As best I can. And again, it's not going to be perfect because, no, go put your laundry away.
About after.
Go put your laundry away. Just about done. Start this the end of the tape. It'll be here all day. Okay. There's our last one right there. And there we go. So there we've got our lights. So the next thing we're going to do is I am going to find my thin foam tape that I had out already, but apparently I don't. What is it? Another one. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take thin strips of foam tape. We're going to start kind of next to this. We are going to run these around this outside edge of our chipboard. Okay. It doesn't have to be like exact because this is going to be underneath. This is just how we're going to start our base that's going to raise up enough that that's not in the way. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to start on one of my longer sides. And I have a whole bunch of 1/2 inch wide pieces of chipboard. Normal chipboard, not lightweight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down. So I'm lining this up against the edge of that foam tape so that it's going to hang off the side over here. Okay. Do the same thing on this side. When I get down here on this end, I'm just going to cut it off. Actually, I'm going to cut it off before the edge there, because I'm going to let this one hang off on this end. And I just took scraps of chipboard that I cut down to the 1/2 inch for this. Okay. Come out here, and that one, and that one. Not that you necessarily need to, as long as the finished outside edge of this is no more than 9 by 9, you'll be fine. All right, so we've got those. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to glue these. And then just to kind of even up how this is all reinforced, I'm going to try to go over my seams. So anywhere that the chipboard kind of overlaps, I'm going to try and put a solid piece across those seams just to kind of shore it up a little bit better. Okay. Okay, we'll go across here. And that's why I haven't really given you a length on these. I mean, I did 9 inches, I think, on all of these, just because you're going to end up trimming a lot of them off anyway. So as long as they're bigger than what you need them to be, you can trim them down as you go. It would be easier if I got out the big scissors, wouldn't it? Okay, so this one's going to go about right there. Okay. And again, these don't have to be perfect because we're just trying to build this up so that this isn't like causing one corner to stand up higher than the rest of the project. Okay, so I'm going to go here again. And we're going to go 3 deep, or 3 high, I know what I'm trying to say. Because the way I've got when we go to wrap this, that is figured into our overall measurement for our wrapping. Okay. You may want to kind of clip these or set this somehow where you've got some weight on it, just to ensure everything adheres together. You could do this with score tape actually, because the finished product, it would be fine. And that would actually adhere them together immediately. So if I do another one of these, actually, I think that's probably how I'll do it. So you can see that builds that frame up enough that this is no longer going to be standing up too high. Okay, so we're going to turn that over, push that down. I'm going to take my thin strips again, and we're going to go around this outside edge. And you're going to go around right up next to the pattern paper on the chipboard. And in this case, you will go up and around on this corner where the battery pack is. And then one more. Okay. Of course, that one wants to fight with me because its backing is coming off. Okay. So those are down. So what we're going to do now is I've got my frames. So I have 2 frames cut. I have 1 solid piece of 9 by 9. So these start out at 9 by 9. You're going to cut in 1/2 inch to make an 8-inch opening. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get my backing off of my foam tape all the way around. Maybe. wants to cooperate. A little bitty piece. Okay. So this should sit right along the edge of that center piece of lightweight chipboard. Okay, turn that off for now. All right, so now I'm going to grab normal foam tape. I know I'm going to need to roll this, so give me 1 second. Trying to find my normal rolls. Where they are. I don't have one. Oh, there they are. Ooh, I need to order some more of those. That's my last one. I usually have them on hand. Okay, so this we're going to go around the outside edge of this frame to build up our dimension. And we are going to go around this 3 times. So you're going to have 3 layers of the normal foam tape. So this is the normal, not the giant roll, obviously. It's because the giant roll is the thinner foam tape. If we use that one, you're going to have to go around that many more times, and you don't want to do that. If you wanted to cut, I don't know, 5 or 6 chipboard frames to put on top of this, if you wanted to use the strips again, if you have a bunch of extra chipboard strips, you could do that as well. And this is one of those cases where I am trying to go over my seams with a solid piece again. And these, because we most likely, and I'm not sure if I'm actually making this one a shaker. So because we are most likely going to make this a shaker, ooh, almost. I am going to make sure I have those as tight against each other as I can. Okay. Down this side. Backing off one more time. And do our final layer. Okay. Almost there. All right, so I will put that on my list of things to order and worry about that later. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to flip this back over. We are going to glue the solid 9x9 piece on the back here. That should be tucked down underneath there. There we go. Okay. So I am just going to get my glue on here. set this down. I'm actually going to stand it up to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be, that I'm not sliding like I just did. Okay. I'm actually going to set this way. And something heavy to sit on top of it. Or not. I don't know that I really need to. I think I can just push it down. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for right now so that will have a few minutes to dry. And we are going to do our frame. Our topper frame piece. I promise I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so you're going to need your scoreboard. You're going to need a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. We are going to score at 7/8 of an inch and 1.5 inches. Okay, we're going to turn again. 7/8 of an inch, 1.5 inches. Turn. 7/8, 1.5. One more time. 7/8, 1.5. Okay. So now I am going to take my scissors. Actually, I'm going to glue this in here first. No, I'm not. I'm going to take my scissors. You're going to cut on the inside score line up to the next inside score line. Okay. Cut on the outside score line up to the inside score line. I'm going to turn. I'm going to cut up. And then I'm going to cut up. So basically, you're making a tab out of that square that's the center of your score lines. Okay, so we're making that square a tab. It's easier if you have them kind of on the same side. So here's my tab, and I'm going to do them the same way on this side. So just when you go to wrap this and close this all up, that just makes it a little bit easier. But if you get them, you know, going every which way, that's okay too. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of just look and see if it looks like anything needs to be mitered. We're going to miter just slightly from the outside score line. Okay. We're going to do that all the way around. Just because it's going to give it a little bit cleaner appearance once we get it all put together. That's the second thing to do. Okay. And you're going to want to kind of look at your tab and see if it needs mitered at all. If it does, go ahead and miter those. Otherwise, they should be fine the way they are. Okay. So I'm going to fold up on the first set of score lines. Actually, no, I'm not. Don't do that yet. Just kidding. Okay. What we need to do is cut our frame. So from the inside score line, I'm going to line that up at 1 inch in my trimmer. Okay. I'm actually going to turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So we're at 1 inch. We're good. Actually, I need to move that over. So because this one is going to be at 1.5, we're going to start at 2.5. So I'm putting my blade at 2.5, And I am going over to 9.5. Okay, I'll pick it up, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to line that score line up again with the 1 inch on here. My blade should still be at 9.5. I'm going to take it back to 2.5. And again, score line at 1 inch. And one more time. And I always end up having to do a little bit of manual trimming just on the corners, but you should have an almost perfect square. And I always end up on those first couple. I don't go quite far enough because I'm afraid of going too far, and then it doesn't quite go through. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to take my frame, and I'm going to glue my frame or score tape my frame down in here. Either one will be fine. I'm actually I think I'm going to score tape it because I'm going to need my score tape here in a minute anyway. Okay. So I am going to use 3/8 inch score tape. I'm going to go all the way around my frame with that. Move that out of the way. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, bring this back in. Now we're going to fold up that first score line. I'm sorry, the inside score line, not the first score line, the second one, the inside one. Okay. So we're going to use that to help us get our frame in here. Get our chipboard part of our frame in here, that is. Okay. So I'm going to line this up. It should fit in here exactly. Okay. I'm then going to take my blade, and I'm going to go from the inside corner here to the corner here, and I'm going to cut. You can do it with scissors if you want. I seem to have better luck doing it with the blade and be able to get a little more even. And see, my measurement was slightly off on this one side because I can tell where my frame has to wrap around is on the short side, but it will be okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to start with my short one because it's going to be the hardest one. And as soon as I figure out where my bone folder went, whew, where did it go? It's disappeared. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to run it up along the inside of the frame, and then I'm going to fold and burnish this over. Like I said, I was slightly off when I cut this part in, so this one's going to be super short, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to put down, so I'm going to do it last. Okay, so I just want to go around all 4 sides with my bone folder, work this up, and then fold it over and work it down. And again, up. And then over and down. Just because we're just kind of preparing the paper for where ultimately it's going to need to go and be glued down. Okay. Let me I'll grab my clips just in case. I'm going to do my 3 longer ones first, and then the one I screwed up I'll do last because I'm going to have to clip it and let it sit for just a minute. Okay, so just glue, burnish this down. Get a little extra glue, it's not really going to matter. And again, I'm going to burnish that down. Apparently get glue all over the bone folder. Okay, and this one, and then I'm going to have to clip that other one because that's going to be a really hard one to get down because I did not get far enough over on that one apparently. It should have been obvious to me by the fact that, which I'd already cut it, so it really wasn't going to make any difference, that I had to like cut both of those corners further in, but that's okay. We can get it, we can work around it, it'll be just fine. There's very little with this that we cannot work around or cannot fix. Okay, so I am going to clip these down so that they dry where they are supposed to. And heaven knows I've got enough of these little dollar store clips. I will have more than enough because I love these and I have tons of them and I've had people give them to me and I'm always like, yay, more clips, because they're just awesome. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pause this and give this a minute to dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's dried. I've gone ahead and put some score tape just because you know how I am. I like to make sure that this grabs immediately. So what you want to pay attention to, this didn't glue right there, but that's okay. It'll be fine once it's wrapped. You want to pay attention to where your I don't need that foam tape right there. Crying out loud. Where your little switch is, okay? You want to make sure, so this is top, bottom, it's on my left-hand side. So I'm going to make sure one of my tabs is going to be on that same side, okay? So, let me just sit this in here, make sure my frame is lining up the way I want to. Kind of wishing I'd used the black foam tape on this part, but that's okay. Things happen, it's fine. If I really got crazy, I probably could go glue strips of cardstock in there and cover up the white, but it's fine. Okay, that's going to fit just fine. I'm going to pull the backing off of my foam tape, and I'm going to carefully, that's where I'm going to kind of stand this up, set this in here so that it lines up, and then push it down. So there's our frame. And now you're going, I'm sure there's no acetate. It's because you will put that on with the frame that mats the edge of this, okay? That way you can get everything in here, you can get your shaker fill in here, you can get all of that done with it sitting flat, and then you just have to drop that down on top of it, okay? So, again, here's my switch. So I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to get the backing off of my tape. I'm going to run glue along the edge of the chipboard there, try to do it along there. and then this area in between. I'm going to come up, and because it's scored, it should fold right over and burnish it down. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, which if you want to pre-fold those score lines, that actually makes it even easier. We can do that. I meant to do that and got sidetracked with my switch issue, which is where, there it is. Okay, it's on that side. And I think I set my other one out further. And looking at that, I think I might have set that back in too far, but it'll be okay. Okay. So again, I'm going to come up and over and down and burnish that down. I'm going to do this side. Actually, I should have done those sides first with the tabs. That was my bad. I apologize. That's going to make these really hard to get in there. So I'm going to cut them shorter. I apologize. You need to do need to start with the side with the tabs. So that's going to make this a little bit tricky, but it will still be okay. Because I am not about to redo this. Okay, so I'm going to try and get these tabs tucked in on the side, which it should be able to do. You may have to kind of force it a little bit, depending on, or better yet, miter it a little bit, and then it should slip right in. Aha, there we go. All right, and then over and burnish it down. This one didn't get in tight enough. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but that's okay. All right, so again, here's your switch. What we're going to do is we are going to miter this tab. Actually, no, we're not. I'm going to do it the way I did it the first time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm just going to cut along here. And I'm going to leave just a hair between, on those edges there, where it needs to go up against the chipboard. So if you look from this side, you'll see my score lines there. This is going to fold down over the chipboard on this side and on the other side. This side again is where I have screwed up my tab, but that's okay. We will make it work. We're backing off the score tape here, which if I had just score taped and not glued, I could have just used undo and pulled this all apart and it would have been okay. But that's okay. All right, so we're going to come up and over, put the tab down in there. And down, and then we're going to come back over in here, and we're going to push this down over that cardstock, or I'm sorry, not cardstock, stock, the chipboard edge there. I'm going to get some of that extra glue out of there. Do the same thing on that one so that those edges are covered up. And then we are going to take a chipboard, or I'm sorry, not a chipboard, a scrap of cardstock, which I'm going to take actually this little piece that we cut out. I'm going to miter it on this end. Actually, that one's not going to be long enough. Take it back. Let me look for a scrap. There we go. All right, so we know about how wide it needs to be because we cut this piece out. So I'm going to kind of use that as a guide. And I'm going to cut. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have one end that is going to slip in like so, and this end we're going to bend right here. And it's going to slip down in over here and get glued. And this end is going to tuck in there to hide our switch. So, putting glue on this end, sliding it down in here, just kind of pushing it in, and then bending this over and just tucking it down in there. So there you can access your switch to turn your lights off and on. Except I did set that in there too far. I apologize. It needs to set out a little bit more towards the edge. That's okay. And then you can close it up, and there you go. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to put down our poinsettias. I'm going to start with my biggest ones first, and I'm going to try to kind of space them so that they're kind of coming out over, not totally over, but just ever so slightly over the lights. Okay? Because we want the lights there. You want to be able to see the lights, but you don't want the lights to be like super obvious. Okay. And if I need to cut some more poinsettias to put in here, these little bitty ones, I can. But just kind of move it around until you get it about where you want it. And I think I am going to need another poinsettia or two. Probably one more big one. Okay, so I'm going to make one more of those poinsettias, and then I'm going to put those in, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I have my frame. I added some little flat back gold beads that I had in my stash. And I don't think I'm actually going to put any shaker fill in this. I kind of like it just the way it is. So really, you could just do your frame matting and leave that open if you wanted to. I am going to go ahead and close it up with some acetate. I think it'll just look a little bit more finished that way. And then if I wanted to add anything on the top, on the outside, and apparently I'm picking up staticky stuff here somewhere. If I wanted to add something else on the outside of it, I could. There we go. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to very gently kind of roll that down. All right, so there we go. Now all I'll do now, oh, what on earth did I do there? Okay, I don't know, it's fine. I will mat around this back side and then do the magnets to attach this to the front of our book. But if you wanted to make this as a standalone piece, at this point you just need to mat the back of this and the sides, and it's done.